Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining November's OpenAlex webinar. Today we're going to be focusing on international intelligence. I'm really excited about this for a couple reasons. The first being that I'm in Barcelona right now, where I've spent the week talking about the importance of open research information infrastructure like OpenAlex, and so that international context is very high, but also because we're moving the format a little bit to being more presentation from more presentation to more actual engagement and walking through the new user interface. So quickly, the agenda, I'll give a tiny bit of context, but really we want to start talking about the use cases for international intelligence specifically through the user interface. And then my colleague Jason Portenoy, who's on the call, is going to be doing a walkthrough or showcase rather, of University of Washington's international dashboard that has OpenAlex data to give you a sense of what's possible beyond just the user interface. Just like every presentation we've talked about, the idea here is that research is happening, and when you collect data on it, you can do analyses on those data to provide more informative actions, strategies, policy, management decisions that are informed by data. And this is really where OpenAlex comes in, because most institutions don't have an inventory of all the work that they're doing, because publication processes happen outside of the university. And so OpenAlex is going through all the scholarly works that it can find, and it's collecting information on who published it, what it's on, what institutions they're at, where in the world those institutions are, who's funding it, all of this type of metadata that allows us to do the use cases we've talked about in the last couple of webinars, but also specifically today for international use cases. To give you a sense of the types of things that universities are asking around international intelligence, it's very different for every institution. And sometimes it's a government asking for the whole country versus an institution asking for themselves. But there'll be questions like, which countries do we collaborate with? Something very simple like that. Or how are we contributing to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which, if you're unfamiliar with those, they're a global blueprint, essentially, for thinking about how we as a world work together on research for impact. But it might also be as specific as which of our researchers are collaborating with a specific country on a specific topic, or with something global like open science, how do we compare with other countries in that shift? So that's what we mean when we're talking about international intelligence. But just like with everything in OpenAlex, it comes down to this really elegant data structure that we have, where you're going to build a search query, essentially using a variety of metadata filters, and I will show some of those later, to get a subset of the information that you want to be analyzing. Maybe that's the end goal and you just wanted to find those publications, but you can also use the count by feature to do analyses on that. So all of it is really going to come down to that. Just like last month rather, on research intelligence, we have a slide with some of the common use cases and then how you could build that in OpenAlex using filters and grouped by features. I'm not going to go over that, but I wanted you to have it available afterwards. And for those of you who are watching the recording, you could stop and look at those in more detail. We're going to go in and actually do those in the user interface. So very excited to say that the user interface is now in beta, and we've seen a lot of people have already started to use it, which is great. You can access it at openalex.org, just how you've been going to OpenAlex, but you'll see the landing page shifted a little bit now to focus on really just diving into the user interface. You can also go to openalex.org/works to get there directly if you don't want that one click. And a quick point here to say that this really is in beta, and it's a pretty exciting thing to be able to share with the world, but we're also really hoping that you'll share with us things that you love about it, things that you hate about it, things that aren't working, or if you find any bugs or things that you'd like to see in the future. It's that sort of community feedback that we're using to shape this. So please do use it and start sending us feedback. And of course, the feedback is openalex.org/feedback. But I did want to make a point here to say, this is completely open. You don't need a subscription here. You don't need access from us. You don't need to enter your email. Anyone in the world can use this. And there's a few benefits that are coming with that. And one of them that I'm really excited about, just to give you an example, is that anytime someone gives a presentation now with an analysis from OpenAlex data, you can get a link to replicate the exact analysis that they did in our user interface, and you don't need a subscription. So I showed earlier that graph. I didn't say what it was, but it's all the collaborations from the country Germany around the world, who they collaborate with, a total number of publications. And I just used the UI to create a link that anyone in the world can now replicate that exact analysis. And there's a QR code to get that data. I graphed it in Excel, but just to show you, this is the type of thing that we're going to be able to start doing. When you're at a conference and you see something, you'll be able to snapshot and do that. So no more presentation. I don't know why it's clicking through so quick, but no more presentation. I want to go directly in, but I did have one last slide that has the link to the dashboard that Jason's going to go over in a little bit, just in case people needed to find that later. So here we go. Really excited to share this with everyone. So I'm just going to go to openalex.org. Well, you can see Works is already there. But if I hadn't had Works in there, this is the landing page for openalex.org. You'll see information about us over here on the left. You can learn more, or you can just start exploring the data. And this is what gets you to the user interface. A few things to orient you to this for the first time. There's 4 color-coded menus at the top. This first one, filter, is where you're going to build your search query. If you're used to something like Web of Science, when you click filter, one of them in here is a search where you could actually search key terms, but you can see all the other different types of searches and metadata fields that you can apply filters as available here. So let's say, for instance, I wanted to look for author. I always look for myself. A pop-up comes up, and you can just start typing. There's not many Kyle Demeses, which is really great for me. But you can see now it's filtered all of these works to just the ones by that author profile. Similarly, if you had done that for your institution, it would show you those. The next 2 menus here are sort by and column. And both of these are about visualizing the subset of results that we have here. So we're just looking at my publications. And right now it's sorted by citation count. So you can see my highest cited paper is coming up at the top, and you go down, my lower cited papers are down there. You could change that. So another common one people use is date, to see my most recent papers first, for instance, but that's something you can do very easily right there. This next piece, column, I'm really excited about, because you can see here there's a bit of a default where you have title, year, open access, citation count, and the type of the work, but you can add other columns here. So if you're exploring work for the first time and you want to see something else, you can add that column here. So for instance, what would be a good one? From Global South won't really work with me because I don't have any publications from there. But if you wanted to do, for instance, language, it's now adding a column that has language. Again, I only publish in English, but this is one way you can start looking at, for instance, your French authors, which publication language they're publishing in. So that's how you create these subsets and then look at the data. Then last piece is this count by feature, and this is where you're going to do analyses. So if I wanted to say, for instance, these are all the metadata fields you can do analyses on, but what's my publication trend look like over time? I'm just going to do count by year as an example. And you can see here my last paper was in 2020. I sort of stopped doing research and been doing a lot more administration. But you can see my publications in each year over time and how that's changed. So something to point out about this, you can see under this count by year, we have 2 options. You can close out of this and say, I'm done with the analysis, or you can download this. And if I click download, it's going to give me a CSV that has each year and the total number of works so that you can replicate this or do whatever you need to do outside of OpenAlex. And this download up here, you can see is grayed out. But if I close out of this, now if I hit download, I'm going to download the entire list here. So the options that are default are .csv, and if you're used to using WAS format in any of your pipelines, you can download that there as well. So really excited about that. The other piece I'll quickly say is if you click API, it shows you the API call that's being used to generate this exact user interface. So if I copy this and then in my browser, I just paste it, it's now showing what the exact API call that was, the exact API response is coming back from that call. So you could send this to somebody on your IT team, for instance, or do anything else that you need through APIs. On that note, actually the URL at the top is also changing as you do this. So you see I added Kyle Demes, but let's say we also wanted to say, is open access. I've got a couple things blocking this. Is also open access. Now it's added that up here. You can see open access is .oa. This URL, you can copy and paste into a new browser, and it will show the exact same thing. You can send this to a friend. You can look at this on a phone. This is how I made that QR code earlier. So this is something we're really excited about. But I had to do a quick walkthrough so that I could do some of the international use cases, and I do want to spend some time on those. So I wrote down a few examples that I wanted to go through. The first would be, if you're looking at a particular country, which SDGs are they contributing to? So I'm just going to close out of these filters that I had and go back to the 246 million works in OpenAlex and say, I just want to know for, let's say, Costa Rica. So institution country, Costa Rica. So it's much smaller now, so 66,000 works. How are they contributing to different sustainable development goals? So now I'm going to, under group by, click Sustainable Development Goal, or SDG, and this is giving us for their contributions, which of those have been tagged against the Sustainable Development Goal. You could export this, you could download the data, send this to someone else, or maybe this is just the end and you wanted to know which were their top contributing SDGs. That's a really simple example. You could also do concepts. So maybe you don't care about the SDG, but you want something more close to subject area. So I switched there to concept, and you can see now humanities, art, philosophy. So that's a very simple analysis looking at a country and their contributions. Another thing we see is, let's look at two countries at the same time and look at their collaborations. And what are the characteristics of that research? So as an example, I'm in Spain, so whoops, I'm in concept. So let me go to institution country, Spain, and then let's say Italy as well. So a couple things I want to point out. When you put two in here, this or now pops up, and the default here for combining within the same metadata filter is or. So this means either it's published in Spain or it's published in Italy, and you can see there's 5 million works. I actually want the ones that are published by authors in both Spain and Italy. So I just changed that to and you can see now at the bottom 128,000 works, which is closer to what I was expecting for their collaborative work. And this gives you all that list of publications. So right now it's sorted by citation count. So maybe I just wanted to see the top cited work. And you can see here it's got a check mark for open access, which means you can actually access the PDF directly. And maybe I'll show that quickly. So if I click on this, there's a flyout on the right side that has information about the article. You can go through the authors, you can see the citations, what it's related to, the abstracts down at the bottom, the different versions that are available online. But importantly, at the top here, these blue icons for PDF in a document and the two different formats. This is openly available, so anyone in the world can then go read that PDF. It also gives you the API call for this particular work. So you can see I clicked that and it opened up in my browser to show all the information that we have on that work. So that's pretty exciting as well. The last one is a barcode, and this just shows all the unique identifiers that we have about that work. So it's OpenAlex identifier, it's DOI, it's PubMed, it's PubMed Central. All of that you can find very easily. If you wanted to know, for instance, instead of the highest cited, you wanted to know the most recent collaborative work, you could do that here as well. So we're close enough to 2024 now that enough journals have a 2024 issue. We're starting to see that here pop up. I think that's what I was going to show there. The next one I wanted to do is something a little more complicated. So let's say you're an institution and you want to know which countries are working on a very specific topic that you're interested in. And this was one that actually came up recently, and I thought it was a good example. Someone who's working on the Sustainable Development Goal, gender equality, but only as it applies to, for instance, a field of ecology. So I'm going to start with that. And then you want to find out which country is working on that. So I'm going to go to concept and search ecology, but you could also do search terms here if you'd rather use those. And then I'm going to layer on another SDG, for instance, another metadata field for gender equality. And now it's combining both of these, and all of these publications are ones that are in the field of ecology by the concept tagging and also our SDG contributions. But let's say you want to then count by country, because you want to know which countries are really doing a lot of work in that. So I'm going to go to count by country. So the United States, UK, Canada, Australia, and then maybe I'm in this field and I think, this is about what I was expecting, no big surprises. But I don't know, if you saw something in here that you wanted to drill in on a bit more, like let's say Sweden caught my eye, you can then add Sweden as a filter in here. So add country, Sweden, to then zoom in on that country and see which institutions. So right now I've still got the country up here, so it's not surprising that Sweden is the top. But let's say which institutions are working on this very specific field in Sweden, sorry. So then your international office knows who they can start building relationships with on that specific topic. So 2 more quick examples before I pass it over to my colleague Jason to go over that international dashboard. The first is a very specific one, but we see happen a lot where, for instance, a government agency like Global Affairs Canada will come out with a very specific funding call on a certain topic, collaborating with a certain country. And you might want to find people who would be good collaborators for that. So I'll give an example, close out a couple of these. Oops. Let's say the call is a collaborative opportunity with India. So I'll do India here as the country. And the call is on, I looked up one-horned rhinoceros, and this is something that actually did come out at some point. So I'm going to go under search, because one-horned rhinoceros is not something that's going to be a concept. It's not an SDG, but it is something I can search through the databases. So one-horned rhinoceros. I think it actually has a hyphen, so I'm going to include that. Okay, so 89 results. You can see there's not a lot of work that is happening on this, but all of those publications are here. So you could export this list and do more analyses on it, but really what I was interested in, who are the authors who are working on that to try and build a team to do research. So if I go to count by author, it's going to bring up each author, the total number of publications they have that match that search query. So these are just examples of ways that you can combine these, but you could imagine also saying, at my institution, I want to look at just collaborations with a specific country and who are the top authors who are contributing there. So that's something you could do just as easily here by counting by author. And then the last one here I want to give as an example, we hear in the open science conversation more and more, people are looking at other countries and they want to know how something has worked when they've implemented a new policy so that they can consider it, or which countries are really leading in open access. And I think it's a great way of combining metadata fields. So I'll show that as an example. So let's say, for instance, we wanted to look at publications in France. Let's look at their open access progress. There's sort of 2 ways of approaching this. The first is to filter by France and say, these are all of the publications that have an affiliation in France. You can then count by open access. So this is going to give me a total count of open access is false and open access is true, but maybe this isn't as informative as looking at this over time. So I'm going to stop count by here, and I'm actually going to add a second filter for open access. And you might not have noticed, but when I clicked that, it just automatically went there. I didn't need to type anything like I did in some of the other ones, because the assumption here is that when you click open access, you're looking for open access. If you want to change it and say no to open access, you can do that by hitting false here. But let's say now I want to look at that over time. How is that changing? These are now the publications with French affiliations that are open access and how it's changing over time. And you can see there's been a very fast increase. The most recent years, it's important to remember that sometimes there's a year or a while before things do become open access. So that is something to keep in mind. But if I change this, you can see this is definitely changing over time very quickly. If I change that filter to open access equals false, you can see it's pretty much plateaued and now is starting to decline. So this is the type of thing that we're seeing. And you could export this data and compare it against different countries. You could look and say, just our institution, when we collaborate with France, how is that changing? So maybe I'll try that as a institution. I'll say I'm at the University of Calgary and hope that they have some collaborations with France. Yes, so now you're looking at your collaboration as an institution with a whole country and those trends in open access. So I know that was a lot of information very quickly, but I wanted to give you a quick high-level overview of what you could do in the user interface. And I see there's going to be lots of questions, which is great. But we really do encourage all of you to go start playing with OpenAlex, the user interface, give us some feedback, because that's really how we're going to continue to benefit it now that it's in its beta phase. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing and turn over to my colleague, Jason, who's going to now show us I think I need to give him permission, who's now going to show us a dashboard that the University of Washington has built off of our data to do customized international intelligence work. So Jason, I think you should be able to share your screen now. Let me know, though, if that's not the case.
Yeah, looks like it. Yeah, so hi everyone. Thank you, Kyle, for that. This are you seeing my screen okay?
Yes.
This is just showing the global publications. Excuse me. So yeah, this is a showcase of what the University of Washington has done with OpenAlex data. It's something they developed on their own, but they were able to get the full data for it to show off a dashboard of their global co-authored publications. And so this is live on their public site. The URL was in the slide deck and will be available if you want to check it out. But it's being actively used in the UW Global office, and I've worked with them a little bit to help them get the data. But it's an app developed entirely on their own. They download all of the OpenAlex works but all the OpenAlex works by UW authors using our API, and then combine it with their own HR data and do a little cleanup to get this dashboard that can show global collaboration. And they're using it to show off to different departments, faculty members, and international institutions that come by to meet with them. So it has 3 tabs. This is the global publications overview, and this is sort of a general overview of everything. You can show it off to the different departments. They're able to. UW has 3 campuses. Seattle campus is the big one, but there's also the Tacoma and the Basel campus, and there are also individual colleges within the different campuses, and so by connecting it to the HR data that they have, they're able to identify, like, specifically the College of Education. You can show their international collaborations. So anything outside of the US, the papers that are co-authored with people from those countries. And then you have over time, you can see we're showing from the last 20 years, I think, but yeah, you can see the number of faculty that are co-authoring internationally and the number of papers co-authoring internationally. And you get high-level statistics here. Now, if we go to the next tab, this is specifically by faculty name. So this is everybody who's been linked from OpenAlex to UW's internal HR records. And yeah, I've selected one, Professor Christopher Murray, who has done written a lot of papers, done a lot of international collaboration. So he's a good one to show off. but you can see specifically his collaboration around the world. The over time is here, and then the different journals that have co-authored publications, and the different cities and or different universities and cities grouped by cities and country. And then this last tab shows by foreign university. And the example I brought up here is Tsinghua University, which UW has a healthy collaborative relationship with. They promote a lot of collaboration between UW authors and Tsinghua University authors. But I was told that when people from Tsinghua come by, they're shown this dashboard. You can see so they're right over here in China. You can see the extent that they co-author by the different colleges at UW, and again the journals that they tend to publish in, and here's a faculty level view of different collaborations. Another example was Aga Khan University, and they've done a lot of collaboration in medicine, particularly. So this shows the extent of their collaboration. And again, this is not something developed directly by OpenAlex. This was a UW project, UW global office, and it shows, like, since we offer our data so openly, they're able to get everything they need and link it to their own data, create their own dashboard with their own branding on their own website. They didn't need to ask us. We did help a little bit, like anyone can just go ahead and do this without needing to use any of our proprietary, any sort of proprietary like visualization software or anything, or even ask us permission. Although, of course, we'd love to hear about what you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. I think I do just want to re-echo that point that we keep learning about these really fantastic ways that people are using OpenAlex data around the world, and we're really excited about them. And absolutely, you don't have to contact us. You don't need to sign up for an API. You don't need to sign up for the GUI, but we do benefit from learning how people are using it so that we can share these examples with other people and sort of all grow together, but also so we can start learning what we can do better. And I think it is a bit of a radical shift to think that you can just reach out when you find something that is wrong and we can fix it very quickly, or that you can have things that you'd like to see in the future. We can collaborate towards getting those available for everyone. So I do want to reiterate that, especially in the context of global, this is something that's open, and it's really one of the benefits. So I see there's a bunch of questions already in the chat, and we're just at the time for 30 minutes for the recording. So I'll stop that and we'll move to the Q&A, but I'll say thanks to everyone who is watching this recording afterwards, and definitely reach out if you have any questions.